You're listening to the Vetted VA podcast, Your Journey Home. Nathan Nottingham is your host today, and he'll be chatting with Thomas Sloan.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vetted VA podcast. We're starting a new series inside the podcast now. If you've been listening for the last couple of years, you've heard a lot of us Vetted VA professionals coming together with Josh, and we're having conversations about common misconceptions, breakdowns, how to utilize the VA home loan, all sorts of topics, from anything from appraisals and inspections on property to offering to getting qualified. And we're still going to do those, and you're still going to hear some of those. But a new series we're launching is getting to know the Vetted VA professionals directly. In the last 5 years of Vetted VA being around, it started as a Facebook group, and it is moving into a mission, a focus, and it moved quickly into something that has national reach, thanks in part to professionals like Thomas Sloan, who's joining me today. So Thomas, welcome to the Vetted VA podcast. I'm super glad you're here.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
So where do we find you? Happy New Year to you too. Thank you for that. Where do we find you, Thomas? Where are you at right now?
I am hiding in New Jersey in the Taylorham section, which is North Jersey, for those of you who are not aware. Close to New York City, close to Pennsylvania, close to Philly, kind of like in that middle spot where the pizza's the best.
Okay. All right. He's casting it down. I'd love to hear. I'm going to have, next time I'm in New Jersey, I did swing in there for like an overnight real fast for business once. And I was like, I felt so bad. I told you later. And then I felt like a guilt. I shouldn't have said anything, honestly. But next time I'm in there, I'm going to hit you up for that. Let's do some pizza. So Thomas, how long have you been with Vetted VA? And then also, like, as we know, Vetted VA is not the lender. You don't work for us. We're a group. We are mission-minded focused. So tell me more about where you're coming from too, your background, your company you work with, all that stuff.
I came to you, I think, around February or so of 2022. Yeah. And I came to you from a place of learning. I wanted to learn more because I felt like I was underserving the veterans that I was helping. I do have a couple friends and family that served or are serving, and I want to help everybody, but I always felt like at the end of the transaction that I could have done something a little bit better. And that's just because the guidelines, there's so many of them and they're so flexible. So I came to you and I actually sat with you and I think Chris on the beach in Miami.
Yeah, we did.
We were at an event and our families were getting together, and you were awesome. Chris was pretty cool too. And we talked. And after that conversation, I felt really good. So I felt comfortable enough to reach out to you and say, hey, do you have some sort of training in place that, you know, I could purchase or be part of or whatever? And you said, why don't you join Vetted VA? And that's where it all kind of began. So March of 22, I think, is when I started the journey and haven't looked back.
Yeah, it is. I do remember that conversation. I think we were at the Hall of Fame event in Miami or around that area. And I remember discussing with you and your wife, which you are a dedicated husband and family man. You love your family. I love watching that with you. And I know it's a big part of your why for what you do and how hard you work. But you just questioned, like, do I even have what it takes to do something like that? We're like, yeah, because what do we need more than anything is a willing heart and mind to say, do I know everything? And then be able to say, no, I don't. I'm willing to learn a heck of a lot more. That's, I mean, a key cornerstone to success, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, education is part of our everyday lives. And if it's not, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're always seeking those. You know, I did a little lookup on you, and it was interesting to see that I like to track people on what others say about them too, like Google reviews and how people talk about each other. And one of the things that's come across regularly, both in Vetted VA, but outside of that too, is that you get praised for responsiveness, professionalism, and really the ability to make the mortgage process as seamless and stress-free as possible. And I think that comes from a unique place. Like some of your background, and you shared this with me at one point, you've done a lot more than just mortgage in your life. Like, where did you come from? What took you into the mortgage origination realm?
Around 24 years old, I knocked on the door to be a waiter. It was like right before I became a father. Some things were going on in my life, and I had to kind of get in front of that, and I was trying to make some changes. Mm-hmm. And I knocked on the door and became a waiter, and the first job I had was at like a chain restaurant of some kind, and I got fired. I fired because I was not being responsible. I wasn't showing up on time. I was messing around. It was just not a good point in my life. And I had a friend of mine that was there as a bartender, and he's like, "Hey, go to this place. It's this really fancy steak and seafood restaurant. I know the managers." I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed here. This is like a big situation." I went in, I got interviewed, and they said, "Yeah, I have a spot as the room service waiter." So that's what I did. I was in a little closet, like literally a closet, with a phone and some glasses, and a guy who was teaching me the wrong way the entire time. Something like, "Hey, when you go up there and deliver the food, make sure you tell them that you have to share the tip with 5 other people." Like that's the kind of thing. So, so it's not a great situation, and it really hurt me to kind of hear that. So I never did, and I always ended up getting extra tips anyway. So I've really focused hard on trying to get out of there and into the floor and serve in the restaurant and the steakhouse. And it took me a while to get there. And once I finally did, I never looked back. I put everything into everything I did. I always took the harder road every single time. I still do to this day, that same thing. One of those things is bananas Foster. That's something where you take some banana butter and some bananas and some Myers dark rum, and you bring a Gyrodon over to a table, and you light it on fire, and you put it over some ice cream. It's a really cool thing, but it takes a lot of steps to get to that point and deliver that type of thing. For, I don't know, if you want to take 20% of $15 or whatever it was, it's $3. It's really not much money, and it's a lot of work. So every waiter in there was like, "What are you doing? Stop doing that. Go get this instead, or go do that instead." So I always focused on like that experience and that service and just that experience really is what I focused on. And what always happened is, maybe I'd made 25% or 30%, but of the whole check. And instead of that person, those couples that were coming in for celebrations, ordering enough food that would be like an $80 check, their check would be $150. And instead of a $20 tip, it would be a $50 tip. It was consistently like that. So I really learned right up front that service is everything. Knowledge as well, but service is everything. And if you're not going to put in that extra effort, you're not going to see a reward. And I think the other part there is that ROI. I just never really looked at that ROI. I just put in the service and everything else kind of came. So I took that mentality 15 years, by the way, in that place. I went from waiter to bartender to waiter, bartender to manager, which was like 10 steps back, to like a hybrid of all of that for about 5 or 6 years. And then I transitioned over to the catering side for about 10 years. And I did like corporate catering. And at that point I was fighting for custody of my kids for the second time. And it was a struggle. So I needed to find a more stable work schedule, right? Nights, weekends, and holidays in the restaurant business was not doing it. And it was really detaching me from being a father. And at that point, I was not a husband. I was just a father. And that was a struggle for me. So I basically sacrificed everything and said, I'm quitting. They loved me there. It was a really great place. It was a mutual relationship with the owners and I. And I walked up to the owner and I said, "Can we have a conversation?" And I said, I have to quit. My kids, I'm just never going to see them. They're going into kindergarten.
Yeah.
And nights, weekends, and holidays means I will just never see my kids. And no offense, but I see that in your life and your brothers and sisters' lives. And I can't continue down this path. I just can't. I'm going to go swing a hammer for $10 an hour. I don't care what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to find something. I have no plan.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, somebody just gave their notice in the catering side and you can have their job." I was like, "Oh, I have no experience." He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." So literally like a week later, I went through like an interview process, which was basically like you're hiring him kind of thing to the catering with the director of catering. And then they're like, "All right, you're starting tomorrow." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Sounds good." The pay raise was great. It was salary, no more commission, no more tips or anything like this. I'm like, "What am I supposed to wear?" "Oh, a suit." I'm like, "Oh, a suit."
Oh, yeah.
"Oh, I have no money. I have no suit. I have nothing." It's like, "All right, I'll take you to shopping." So the owner took me out, took me shopping, like put everything into me, like trusted me and really dedicated, he bet on me and took me out, got like 4 or 5 different, varieties of daily workwear for suit, sports jacket, all that stuff. And that's it. I went into this place and I did the same thing, level of service, right? I was making just salary, which was very different for that position. It was always commission based, but they agreed to pay a base, and then the catering managers agreed to take a portion of their commissions to help, finish that base to make sure that I was comfortable. And after 3 or 4 years of no raise, I was like, "Hey, I think I deserve a raise." I've crunched the numbers. I think the position over 10 years had never broken 700,000 in revenue. And after a full year, I was at 1.8 million.
Jeez.
And it was just growing. And it really, all I was doing was what I should be doing. That's all it was. And when I asked for a raise, the answer I got was like eye-opening. It was, oh, we don't really get raises here. I was like, oh, that's not okay for me. You're commissioned. So if you work harder, you make more money. If I work harder, I don't. And I work pretty hard, don't I? Well, yeah, but all right, well, I'm going to go talk to the owner and have a conversation about this. That was a long process, but at the end of the day, the owner agreed that they wanted to give me the biggest raise they've ever given anybody ever. And that number was $5,000 a year. So
wow.
Like, 700,000 in revenue and 1.8 million. There's a problem here. Can I go to the owner and talk to them on your behalf, please? No disrespect. I just don't agree with that. And I just got nowhere. And I realized at that point that I was in a better place than I had ever been, but I had so much more to offer and I had to go someplace else.
Wow.
2016, I want to say, or maybe 17. 16, I met my now wife. Within a year, we were ready to buy a house. Barely. Bought a house, went through the process. It was not great. It was bumpy. We went through a direct lender. A very good friend of mine who had been in the mortgage industry for 20 plus years. I trusted him with my life. He trusted me with his life. It was a very mutual situation for both of us. We knew intimately, our details, and I trusted him. We got to the finish line, but at the end of the road, I noticed, number one, I came up with solutions that, not only he wasn't looking for, but neither was the realtor. And I realized that there is so much more you can do to make this a better experience. And hey, if these guys can do this, I can do this.
Yeah.
This is my mentality.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to go get my license. I went and I got my license. It took about 6+ months. I wasn't fully committed. At that same time, I was running a youth sports league for basketball and for softball. I grew it from 2 teams each to 8 teams. So my time was limited, but I was fully involved with my kids. I was coaching. I was doing every minute of my life was focused on this, including all the minutes that I was sitting in front of this computer at work, running these sports teams. Really, it's really what I was doing. So I was super busy. So when I did get my license, I didn't do much, but I closed a couple loans, right? A couple loans on refinances. And it opened up doors I just didn't have access to before, such as we went on a vacation as a family, and we couldn't do that before.
Right.
We had literally $100 a month left over after everything was paid.
Yeah.
That's what we had, and that's all we had. There was no more. It was salary. There was I would get tips every once in a while. It was like, oh yay! It was a dire situation, but we were surviving and we were fine. I've got 4 kids. My in-laws were living here. It's a 1,300 square foot home with 1 bathroom. And at that point, it had 4 bedrooms. So the only person who had their own room was my son. That was it. We still live in that house today because I love the mortgage payment.
You're right. Yeah.
But we could really use another bathroom.
Yeah.
That's besides the point. I ended up, getting my license and making a little bit more money. I'm like, can you imagine if you did this full time? And my wife was like, it'd be great, but this, that, the other thing.
Scary, man. It's hard.
Scary. 2019, my friend says, I'm opening up my own shop again. I'm going back to being a broker. I can't do this retail thing, but I need somebody by my side that I trust. Do you want to come with me? And I'm like, 100% commission, 0 savings. Let me talk to my wife.
Yeah,
so
right.
I spoke to my wife, Christina, and she was fully supportive of the idea. She says, you're going to do great. I'm like, we have no money, honey. We have no money. So she's like, you're going to do great. Okay. So I got in, and 2020, February 3rd, I think it was, we opened up. We ended up getting this 2,000, 3,000 square foot office space. We went shopping for the furniture. We did the computers, the server, the setting up Calyx Point, all the stuff that you do as a mortgage loan originator in 2020. So I sort of saw how a business was built from the ground up, which is great. And I had the full trust of the owner of the company, where he let me do things that regular loan officers don't get to see or don't ever understand because they don't get to do it. So it was infatuating. I loved it. Every single step of the process was amazing. And I think we closed our first loan like April of that year.
Okay. Yeah.
And at the end of, and I was, I don't know, maybe I was like a LOA, like an assistant, or maybe I was a processor. I was just whatever you can do to get these loans at the closing table. That's what I was. March, we get hit with COVID, and all of a sudden, everybody go home.
Yep.
So I go home. I have this what I'm in right now, which is a sunroom with chalice windows at the time, which are like the ones where you wind and the windows open and there's no screen. Like temperature wise, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So we had to fix that.
Oh boy.
So I've been in there ever since. It's a little tiny room, and I just kind of figured it out. Right, I just figured it out. Fast forward a little while, maybe 2 years, go through COVID. We all do well. The money was better, but it was commission. And I just get to this point where I wanted more, and I realized that my more was like much further away than we could get to where we were. So the brokerage, I have my own way of running my business, and the broker owner has his way, and my way is like helping veterans, like helping people that are PCSing from one state to the next, and like, hey, are you licensed in this state? No, but I can be. Like, see, like,
exactly.
I would see this on my production, right? My paycheck, my family, everything would be in danger. And I realized I think I just needed somebody to support me on all that stuff so I could do what I do, right? Help
do
people.
what you do right well. Yeah.
Yep. And after time of talking to many, many different people, I found what I thought was going to be the place that I went. And I didn't feel 100% all in on it, but I had spent so much time looking, I was deflated. I had no more time left. My battery was empty. I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm good. This is where I'm going to be. It has New York. That's all I care about. I'm moving forward. So I got to that point, and I went to an event in Hoboken for the trade organization that supports us as wholesale mortgage brokers. And I met a friend of mine who works for the company I'm with right now, Go Rascal, and told him, I'm switching brokerages, I'm doing this. And he's like, oh, talk to the CEO, Scott Valens. You should talk to him. And I'm like, I'm out of that. I cannot have these conversations anymore. I know what that is.
It is stressful. It is very stressful. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it completely is. And then I kind of said no. And then I thought about it for a second. I said, I always told myself that I would never turn down an opportunity. Just to have a conversation. Why am I not having a conversation? So I said, you know what? I'm wrong. I need to have this conversation. So I had a conversation with Scott Valens and David Williams, the CEO and the CFO. And it was the most different conversation. Like, it was so much different than most of the other conversations I've had. I had one other conversation with a very special person who I really adore. That would be you. And it was just a very like laid back, comfortable, like, what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? Conversation, which was incredible. Plus they had New York, which was like the other factor that was important to me at that time.
And that people that don't know, that is tough. That's a 3-year plus process just to get licensed in New York. It is crazy.
It took a year and a half for my personal license to come through. It was ridiculous.
Exactly.
There was no rhyme or reason, just because.
Yep.
Just because.
That's how it goes.
So I joined Go Rascal, and very quickly I became very close with Scott and David. And, very early on, they recognized a lot of things that I did, which was really just help them with everybody who worked there, whatever that meant. So there's a guy that came on from retail that had no idea about wholesale, but a really sharp guy. He asked me about something, and I called him. Like, I got a message. I just picked up the phone. I called him. We talked through it. We talked for like 2 hours, and we went over all of his questions, and we're like best friends. I'm like everybody's best friend. At least I think.
You do have a process to make friends quickly. You are that kind of guy. That is true.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of came to Go Rascal. And Since then, I'm now in like 18 different states. I've just really, opened up that for myself just to help people, because people all over the world are like, "Hey, Tom, can you help my friend?" And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say no. And I've said, well, I can refer you to a friend of mine, but there's a select few people that I trust across the country that will do things the way I will do. And 100% of them, or well, I would say 90% of those people are in vetted VA, and the other
Yeah,
10% should be in vetted VA.
So let me draw that line, because I think the listeners to this podcast, those are professionals and those that are maybe VA home loan eligible, active duty, families, veterans. The bigger takeaway here is what I heard in your story is that you were in a rock and a hard place and found a job to provide. That job then, as you grew and things change, which they inevitably do, and we love that about life, right? Things grow, but you were kind of locked in until you took a risk on yourself, and that risk at that point was to go into catering, because you said, "Look, I'm not doing this anymore. It's costing me too much." And I have talked to so many veterans who are like, "Man, I love the service, but it was killing my family," or "I enjoyed this part and it was hurting this," and I had to make a choice. And we do. That's life. Life is full of a bunch of was it Robert Frost, right? The road less traveled, or the uh, I came to a road in the woods and they diverged, and I took the one less travel. Like, we all make that choice and it leads us to somewhere. But that choice, when you look back at it, has you can almost see where if I didn't go, I could have gone that way and chased this, but I went this way, and maybe the road was a little harder, a little longer, but man, I'm super happy where I'm at. And I think maybe that's the reason your empathy and like what people talk about, your professionalism, the ability to make the process seem smoother, is that you've been in those seats before. I had no choice. Or even PCSing, active duty service members that are like, permanent change of station, got to go. And you're like, "Look, I understand that. You have no choice. I'm going to help you figure out so you have a choice of where you land when you get there." Like, that's a huge thing. That kind of support and mentorship. It's big.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't grow up with much, and I think that, along with everything that I went through during my youth and into my 20s, the struggle, that all I try to never forget. Right. I remember it when I'm raising my kids and they make mistakes. I remember it. I try to remember it at all times, because I think that's the most important thing, is just to stay humble. And not say no to something because it's not going to fill my pocket the way I want it to fill my pocket. It doesn't matter, right? None of that stuff matters. In our business, money comes, and if you're chasing dollars, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to spin around in circles. So,
let me draw a line there too. If you're listening and you're in the mortgage shopping side, you are a consumer. You're thinking like, what you just said is 100% right, because it comes to a humanity heart issue. Those in professions are chasing dollars. The dollars come, the dollars go. If you're a buyer and you're chasing interest rates, the interest rates come, the interest rates go. Sometimes you just have to make the hard choice, even though it's not the long term what you want. You have to bet on yourself. You have to bet on who you are and the ability to pay your bills. You know what I mean? It's like, and you're going to make a better livelihood. I'm going to say 9 out of 10, stereotypical. I have no data to back that up. But so far in my life, and hearing your story, Thomas, like, when I bet on myself to move forward, I don't give up on myself. And that's who I'm going to bet on. I love that.
Yeah.
If you had, from your time in VVA, so you've earned a lot of respect. You've worked your way up. You've taken all the coursework. You've done some teaching. You do some peer-to-peer leadership, and that's a big part of VVA. Nobody works for VVA. They join it out of their own desire to serve the community that we've grown, and that continues to grow. And so there's a lot of leadership there and peer-to-peer leadership. How do you think that you have been able to earn respect from other peers that may have been in the industry longer than you? What is it? What's your secret there?
I just never have my hand out. I think that's probably the key. I never have my hand out, and I've always got a question, right? I never know everything, and I always kind of dig into the why. Just that, I think that student mentality and like that giving kind of in BNI, which is like a networking group, they have one of their core values is givers gain. And I love that. Right. That was something that I didn't know existed until I joined BNI. And I was like, that is literally like how I've lived my life. I've always just given, even when I didn't have, and it's always come back. It's always come back, whether that's a higher power or it's karma or it's like whatever it is. I think that is the key to being likable, right?
Yeah.
When you're not part of a group where, oh, here's that guy. He always needs a, he's always asking for a cigarette or whatever.
Good point.
Whatever it is, right? Like it's always that there's somebody that's
always
always
the
asking for
takers.
something. Yeah, exactly. And I take knowledge, right? I take the experience and what other people are sharing, and I apply it into my world, and I use it to try to help others. And when I have a win, when I have a situation where, the knowledge that I gained from a community applied in real life and it helped me accomplish some major task for somebody, whether it's buying a house or whatever it might be, I've gone back to these communities and I've shared like the additional details that I did to get this accomplished. And I think that is a huge part why people in all of our communities reach out for help, because they see that I have this give. So I think that's, kind of a few reasons why I've just been able to kind of succeed and grow these relationships.
Dude, I love that. All right. So take some of that knowledge, partake upon this audience, and you can choose who you're speaking to. If it's a consumer, if it's a professional, somebody listening to this, like what is something about the VA home loan you've learned that you wish you would have known a lot earlier, that you wish everybody that you talk to would know and have confidence in? Anything that you would partake and pass on now?
There's an unlimited ways to answer this question.
I know, which is it's the arbitrage. Like it's such a huge question, but that's why I like throwing it at you.
I think that what I love about the VA home loan is that 9 times out of 10, the first no you get is not the end all be all no. Like if you don't get the answer you like, ask somebody else, right? Get another opinion. Like the VA loan is so flexible and it changes all the time based on your situation, right? It's always understanding of you, who you are, your situation, whether or not you're moving or not moving or PCSing or not, like all of these factors kind of play into this. And every lender is not built the same. So if you're talking to somebody that you like because it was a referral from a friend or something like this, and you're getting a no and you're giving up and you're as a person who wants to use their VA home loan benefit, don't just take that and move on. It's there's no personal feelings, or there shouldn't be any personal feelings in this industry from a professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody works someplace and can't do something, that stinks, right? That they might not even know that they can do something because they've been told so many times by their boss or by their company that this is not possible. That's just in their world the truth, right? They might not even know with 20 years experience that you can do X, Y, and Z with the VA home loan. Every day I have conversations with people that say you can't do that, and every single day I'm proving them wrong. Not like in your face way, but like, actually, here's the why behind, why you can. So I think if the biggest takeaway is on a VA home loan, you can pretty much do anything if it makes sense, right? Really.
If you can find the lender who'll do it. And that's the big confusion, right? You're a broker, so you work with 30 plus lenders regularly. Sorry, let me start that over. We get to edit this. It's great. So you're a broker, and so you get to work with 30 plus. I don't know how many Go Rascals signed up with, but you get to work with lenders that will do all sorts of different product, all sorts of different underwriting. And so when one lender says no, it is not all lenders. And we go back to what the VA home loan, the VA lender handbook, it's 26-7. It's very open. Ginny Mae chapter 24, the selling guide for VA loans, tends to be a little bit more restrictive. And then lenders put their own overlays that we talk about those regularly. So I love the fact that you brought up if a veteran or active duty service member has been told no for using their home loan, they should still seek a different opinion. One no is not all no's. And sometimes it's okay, not yet. Here's the plan to get you there. You've walked people through that plan before too, haven't you?
Every day, still doing it. Have people working towards that goal. Some move faster than others, but everybody's got their own path.
That's right. I love that. Well, man, that was a great takeaway. Thank you for sharing your story too. I love hearing it. I definitely see your heart. I was thinking about, have you read the book Unreasonable Hospitality?
I have not. That sounds like something I should read.
I think it is, because your whole history in food service and everything. I was just thinking about that. Will Guidara wrote that one from, he took, what was it? It's one of the fastest or youngest guys to take a restaurant into the Michelin stars, like 3-star Michelin restaurant in New York. And is it 11 something restaurant? Anyway, really cool story, but I hear your heart kind of in the same. It's about the service. It's about the experience that you set for others. And I see that what you're doing today. So that's an awesome way to draw those across. So Thomas, thank you so much for being here. If people want to find your contact information, they can do so on vettedva.com. Go to New Jersey and some of the other mini states that you're licensed in. But also, we will put in the show notes your contact information. People can get a hold of you. If you got questions for Thomas, he's just a phone call or an email away. You know he's going to help you and serve you as best as he can, which frankly sets a standard for a lot of us. And we appreciate that, man. Thank you for being the leader you are.
I have one thing to say, if I may.
Of course you can.
Even if there's a professional in the group and you're a member of the group and you seem to be drawn to that professional because you feel maybe like you would be friends or more comfortable with that person, even if they're not in your state, you can reach out to them. Like we all want to help, right? Even if it's just that conversation, you just want to be able to share it with somebody. Maybe you just didn't connect on that intimate level with someone that's on the map, and you have a question. Just if it's a question, will all take your questions, and we will spend that time to help guide you any way we possibly can, or maybe re-explain something that wasn't explained to you in a way that you understood it.
Man, I love that. You're absolutely right. You don't have to be in the state. You don't have to work with them. Vetted VA professionals are here to serve. And sometimes the most trusted voice that you can get is one who's not going to benefit at all from the conversation with you.
Yeah, 100%.
That is so well said. Thank you for bringing that up. Thomas, thanks for being on with us on this new series. If you have any other questions, anybody listening, you want further information, go to vettedva.com. Feel free to email me, nathan@vettedva.com, and I will connect you to professionals like Thomas who will do fantastic work to support you on your home buying journey. So this is the VVA podcast. On your way home, take care. We'll see you in the next episode.
Cheers.